How hard did you push it till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, Municipals? This is Ashton, fresh off of a Sand Valley trip. Not sunburned, not feeling terrible, but with I think some bug bites on my legs still. But yeah, it's time to kind of decompress about this trip and talk. And so have new friend Matt Hahn here to talk to me about one of the courses we played together, and I think one of the courses you can judge for those of you watching on video based off our hats, a course that really kind of hit us in a way, a very kind of profound way that we'll talk about. But Matt, thank you. I mean, again, I think we're talking about scheduling this, and I did not expect to do this the week we got back. I think probably both our bodies feel like crap, but I appreciate you jumping on so soon because I've had thoughts about both these places, especially Lido, and I'm excited that I had someone who was like, let's do it. Let's jump on. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. And, it's good to get it while it's fresh, while we're still kind of buzzing over it. I mean, I think this one's going to hang with us for a while, just based off of the experience we had. But even better to get it while it's kind of hot off the presses.
Yeah, still very much processing, but hopefully that makes for a good conversation. But you're a first-time guest, so what we always like to do is give people a sense of who you are, what you do, and then a little bit about your golf game, what you're working on, whether that's, just playing with your boys or, trying to compete for a mid-am, whatever that may be, just giving people a sense of who you are.
Yeah, for sure. I think the quick spark notes on myself, freelance photo, golf, and video. Do a lot of work with USGA, PGA, courses and resorts, and brands as well. So people may have seen some of my work here or there if they're in the golf social space. Do a lot of shooting for USGA at the US Open, Women's Open, shot PGA Championship this year. Was one of the team photographers for the Ryder Cup last year, so got to go on the plane with the guys over to Italy. So get to do some fun stuff with my job. So I'm always around the game, get to see a lot of different places. I think helps give me some different perspectives on things, which is cool. Just getting to see the ins and outs of it all the time. But as far as my game goes, it just depends on how much I'm traveling at the time. Playing waves, play a lot of golf. Last year played around 100 rounds. Play off of a round scratch, hovers between, been as low as a +3, but right now probably playing more around like a 1 or a 0. Try to play competitively when I can. It's just hard to make it work with the schedule. My ultimate goal would be to play in a U.S. mid-am. I've made it to a Texas mid. That's kind of my feather in my golfing cap is qualifying for that. And I've won a qualifier here in Dallas for the Dallas AM that they have in town. But those are kind of my competitive feathers, if you will. Played some club golf at University of Delaware. Was the club president there for a little while. And yeah, just love to take in the game any way I can.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, I think that's the hard part is like balancing. Well, the thing that's interesting for you being kind of a golf photographer is like when you can't play golf, it's like, sorry, I couldn't go play or practice. I was, taking a picture of Bryson in the bunker, right? Or like I was on the team plane. So it's that weird thing of like when I'm at my job, I'm very much not doing golf stuff. But I think for you, it must be weird where it's like what were you saying? I think you said on an average, like Thursday or Friday at one of your tournaments, you'll walk, like you said, like 40,000 steps or something. Like you're on the golf course pounding the pavement, but you're not obviously with a club in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, the Thursday, Fridays of majors, it's a lot of steps. I mean, it typically comes in, 30 to 40,000 on a Thursday or Friday. I mean, you go shoot the morning wave, you're there at 5 a.m., to prepare for, have breakfast, get gear ready, be ready for the first tee time, shoot some sunrise stuff. And then it's like you go through a morning wave at tee times, you get to 12:30 and you're like, all right, feels like it's time to go home. And then it's like, nope, we're going to do that all over again. We got a whole afternoon wave to go. So those Thursdays and Fridays are the long ones. But, I mean, they're so much fun. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah. We're recording this during open week. Is it weird for you to, like, have a major being going on and you not being there? Like, does that feel weird for you?
I mean, so I've shot U.S. Open and PGA. I haven't cracked into the Masters at this point, and haven't made it to shoot the Open yet. That's a little tougher, obviously, with it being across the pond.
Yeah.
I think those opportunities tend to go to people on that side of the pond.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely, like, sitting at home, like, I had it on today, and I'm like looking at stuff, and it's like, man, I'd love to be over there just like running around. I got to actually play Troon last year in the summer.
Cool.
Was over there for a trip and got to take it in. I got soaked. Actually, one of the wettest rounds of golf I've ever played in my life. Checking it out, but still very cool. And it was one of those spots I was like, man, I'd love to get over here and shoot this if I could.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I guess to transition, so I guess Matt and I went with a group of, I guess it was 20-ish of us to Sand Valley. I had personally never gone on a golf trip that big. Really didn't know many people, but it was, I think what, so much what we talk about on our pod is just golf bringing people together, right? Like this time last week, hadn't met you, didn't know you, and to kind of just have a little bit of time together. It's crazy how fast you can just... I think I knew pretty quickly. I was like, yeah, I think we think about things in a similar way, and I think golf is a really good way to do that. But so we played, I think we'll start off talking about Mammoth Dunes, David McClay Kid, I think 2018, I want to say. And you had played it before, right, Matt? You had been to Sand Valley previously and played it before our trip?
Yeah, I've been to Sand Valley, I want to say 3 times, I think, before our trip. I want to say first time I got there was like 2019. Got to spend a good chunk of time there because I had a trip with Sam who was on our trip planned, and then happened to get added to a trip that just, worked out that it butted up to the couple days before we were going to be there. So kind of got to do a 4 or 5 day stint at Sand Valley and really kind of get to know the ins and outs of it. But at that point it was just Sandbox, Mammoth, and Sand Valley. So this was the first trip for me getting the full course experience, plus obviously Sandbox as well.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I mean, being able to make 2 trips that's certainly nice. But yeah, I mean, obviously you'd played it before, but just kind of give the people a sense of Mammoth Dunes, what it's about, just kind of the thesis statement that we can dive in a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think about Mammoth and when people ask me about Sand Valley and like how does it compare to anywhere else, or when you think about the original 2 courses there, it's like Mammoth and Sand Valley. People have asked me, like, which one's your favorite? Which, kind of what's the differences? And I think the thing that my head goes to with Mammoth is, like, it's just fun. It's like you get a tee time out there, and it's one of those times. I was kind of doing the exercise after the trip of, like, trying to put together a top 10 for me, because I haven't updated something like that in a while. I keep a running list of every golf course I've played by state or by country if it's international. So started to go back and take a look at that, and it's like, I think the thing for me that resonates is, one, can you remember every hole of a golf course? And then 2, it's like, how excited are you to, go to that first tee, if it was like you're going to be playing tomorrow, and then like also kind of goes hand in hand with that, like how much are you looking forward to running back to that first tee right after you walk off of 18?
Yeah. And
for me, Mammoth is one of those that's like near the top of the list as far as like fun factor and like being excited to go play that golf course. And it's got this great multitude, I think, where it's super easy, or not super easy, but super fun. But because it has an easier side to it, wide fairways, anybody can kind of get around it. You'll see a lot of people shoot their lowest scores that they've ever shot on that golf course.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it can challenge the better players. Like if you're a lower handicap, you're still going to go out there and get tested. And it's going to present some different dimensions to you as a better player versus some of the players who aren't. I mean, for them, it's like you've got guys that maybe you're like, hey, this is the first time I can go out here and really feel comfortable off the tee everywhere because I've got space. And at the same time, they see big targets into greens. But for us as better players that have a little more control over the golf ball, it's like those greens still present a lot of unique challenges of like, how are you going to get this close to some of these pins? Or if you miss in the wrong spot, it's like it's going to make it hard to get up and down. It really has a bunch of different dimensions to it, which is what makes it so fun. You can use slopes to get the ball close. It's a golf course that I don't think really has a comparison anywhere, and it's just because of the fun that it presents and also just the scale and the setting.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, as I've kind of thought about it this week, I think it's maybe like the perfect resort golf course, right? Because I mean, I think the beauty of some of these resorts, and we'll talk later about kind of Bandon versus Sand Valley, which seems to be something people want to hear more about. But I think that a lot of times it's like, yeah, like people will go and play, like, you can see behind me, I love, Bandon Trail is one of my favorite golf courses in the world. But if a higher handicap player goes and has like a really bad day at Bandon Trails, there's people that, from what I've heard, walk off that golf course and are despondent, right? There are certain shots at Bandon Trails where it's like, yeah, like, I just kind of need you to do this thing, or else, there, like, not that there aren't options, but it's just like there's a certain test. Even though it's a resort, there's a certain test required. And not that there isn't a test, certainly. I mean, I think that, like, I think about number 1, 2, 3, like maybe number 4, where it's like, you had a great shot in there, but that's a longer iron to like a canted green. It's not like it's not, some difficult shots. But I think that, like, if you're a higher handicap, you play up 1 or, maybe 2 tee boxes, and in general, the ball is sort of rolling to the hole. And, I think that feeling of, having a golf course where people can walk off and like feel just like really good about themselves, is really good, especially too when there's other options where, like, if Mammoth Dunes to me was like just on its own, I do think it would still probably have kind of a cult following. But like, would you and I, like, venture 2.5 hours to Mammoth Dunes, like, especially as lower handicaps? Like, maybe not, right? But I think, like, if you need a little bit of like a palate cleanser, or I also have some thoughts about, if you're gonna do this trip, maybe the best way to orient it. I think that, like, Mammoth Dunes is, again, sort of the perfect resort golf course. Risk reward. I would arguably say it's, again, Lido being its own thing. Maybe some of the most memorable holes, right? Like, we'll talk about some of our favorites coming up, but the drivable boomerang green, like, I have never seen anything like that before. And I think that being able to have a course that's like a little easier, funneling balls to the hole, and like where even people who are not golf psychopaths like us, who can walk off and be like, I loved number 7, right? That's cool, right? And I think that could even be, I mean, I think that most people who are going to Sand Valley are already like in the boat for, loving golf. But I actually think that Mammoth Dunes is a course that can like turn the volume up a little bit, where, again, I think actually for a higher handicap player, especially one who's not a golf architecture person, they might walk off Lido and be like, fuck that place, right? Like, I don't get it. I don't want to get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Where I think, like, Mammoth Dunes, especially if you play the right tees, I don't think anybody's going to walk off there and be anything other than like, that was really fun, which is great. We need more of like fun golf. The comparison I make is like Golden Gate Park. They redid it, and like the reason why my fiance's become obsessed with golf is because, everything's mown down. The forward tees are like 80-ish yards. There's gigantic mounds around the green. The ball is, in general, it's rolling to the hole. There's a couple holes that present like a tougher test, but 7 out of the 9 holes, the ball's, you hit a bad shot and it might actually roll off the edge and go right to the hole. And that's kind of like glowing brain stuff. And basically it's Golden Gate Park at scale, right? At a full-blown golf course. And I think we need more of that. Like, the exacting tests are certainly fun, but I think it's also really fun to have the juxtaposition of that as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the other thing I think about with Mammoth is there's so many unique golf shots out there that are like truly shots that you look forward to hitting if you played it before, or shots that when you're there for the first time, you're like, whoa, this is a shot I want to perform on because it's so cool. It's like, that par 3 on the back, number 13, over the the huge sand chasm, or the drivable 14th down the hill, or even some of the stuff early in the round. I'd say the par 5 third, the second shot into that green, depending on where the pin is. Like, there's fun slopes and things that can happen there. There's just a lot of really unique golf shots out there that are like, this is something totally different.
Yeah, and even one. I mean, I also like love. I know this isn't certainly the only place that does this, but I love that basically, you're teeing off, right in front of the main clubhouse, right off the back of the main putting green, and I think that's sort of thrilling because when I think about it, like, again, I'm sort of on record, not a skier, don't want to ski, but it really actually does sort of feel like almost like a ski lift, right? Like, you think about the Mammoth Dunes of it all. It's like, okay, you're gonna walk out there with your drink in hand and peg it, and then like down you go into like into Mammoth Dunes, and I think that like really works stylistically. The other thing too is like obviously a lot of them are good, but just an incredible logo. I think that it like really like the name nails what it is. The logo is like incredibly distinctive. I love kind of the red flags. It's kind of like with trails, the orange. Like it's one of those that like you're on the you get to the first green and you look at the flag and how it's kind of the red and the woolly mammoth and you're like, this all just makes sense. And I think that's really great when a golf course is sort of a cohesive. It's all cohesive, right? It's like this makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, and then the one thing I'd say is like, we were talking about how Bannon plays into it, and you kind of drawing comps to there. Like, if somebody's been to Bannon but they haven't been to Sand Valley, I'd say Mammoth is closer to like the Sheep Ranch,
Yeah.
probably.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a mix of Sheep Ranch and Old Mac is almost what I would say as far as like how it plays. I mean, you've got kind of the expanse to hit it in that both of those golf courses offer,
Mm-hmm.
and like some of those kind of signature shots and looks, and also just like the slopes to use. And I think Mac at Bannon is one that is sometimes misunderstood, and I think it tends to be a better player's favorite golf course because they can control the ball in and use slopes and kind of play around some of those contours. I think Mammoth has that same dimension, but I think it brings that higher handicap player in way better than any of those two golf courses do out of Bandon. It's just got that different aspect to it that you won't really understand until you get out there and play. And it's like, man, this golf course like just wants you to have fun.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting comp about comparing, mixing the two, and I agree with you because I think that like by like the end of the third hole, you inherently understand. I mean, really after the first hole, I think you inherently understand Mammoth Dunes. Where like I know that like the first time I played Old Mac, I was like, okay, and the second time I was like, this is cool, and then when we went back this year, I was like, man, like Trails is 1A, but like Old Mac is like 1B. And there's a thought exercise I'll put you through later, but like I was also trying to think about like obviously like it's really fun to kind of compare Lido and Old Mac, and because I mean one is sort of a variation of the other, and like which do you prefer? And that's not really like a real question, but like as I kind of built out my chart around kind of comparing the two, I was like, I don't know. There's just a lot to noodle on, but yeah, I think that Mammoth is like. It is what it is, and you understand that early, but I actually mean that in this sense as a compliment. Because there's actually, even though you understand it, it's not simple. Because even too, I mean, again, some people want to just go and drink some Coors Lights and are not interested in golf course architecture at all. But I mean, I think that like the other component too is like you also really understand immediately, like maybe better than any course I really see is like width and angles, right? It's like, number one, it's like, I hit a drive to the top of the hill and had a flip wedge in. Yes, I absolutely laid the sod over it, but like you were left and had a blind shot, right? Number two, I didn't know I was doing this, but I kind of pulled my drive to the right, but I hit it enough where like I actually had a clear shot. I could see the flag. You were left and you had to hit it over kind of the little Alps mound, right? So it's one of those things like if you're curious about architecture, you can actually start to, it's like, I want to understand width and angles. It's like, this golf course is all like literally the whole thing is width and angles, like easier, harder on every hole. There's a right place to hit it and a wrong place to hit it, and you can see that, which again is just, if people want to learn, it's just cool to have that option where you can explain that on the first hole. It's like, here's there's a million miles to the left, but you're gonna have a blind shot in. If you want to challenge up the hill, you got a clear shot. I think the light bulb can go off for people super early.
Totally.
Yeah. Is there a hole to you that, I mean, cause I think the thing we talked about is there's so many like signature holes at Mammoth. Like there's a lot of memorable holes. Is there one in particular that you really love?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question. I mean, I don't think there's a weak hole out there, in my opinion. I mean, for some reason, some of the holes that I go to out there are the par fives. A lot that's kind of what pops into my head, like hole number 8 after the boomerang there, like just kind of playing down over that hill.
Yeah,
it's kind of a blind tee shot, and then you've got a really fun second shot where you have an opportunity, like it, if you hit a good drive, it's going to be a pretty reasonable approach, and if you're playing the right tees, like somewhere in the 210 to 240 range, depending on how far you hit it, you're going to have an easy opportunity to go and try and make a birdie.
Yeah.
But you kind of have this opportunity to play this hero shot kind of over some of the the bunkering on the left-hand side and like the deep bunker up front. And, depending on where that pin is, we had a front pin, which was what made it, in that shorter dimension as far as yardage goes. But you get a back pin there, like it's just a fun shot to try and hit. And it's literally every hole out there makes me excited to play. There's not one out there that, kind of takes a hole off. I mean, we got range shortened there at the end, but 18's great. You have an opportunity to go for a hero shot there into the last, the par 5 15th it's split fairway. You've got a top and bottom option, and that green complex, you've got to hit a really good shot in there and get it on the surface. Otherwise you've got a really unique slope and complex to kind of work with, where you can go down a big slope to the left of the green into like a catch basin. It's like, all right, now you've got an uncomfy chip shot up to a green that's way elevated above you. So at some point you've got to hit the tough shot and kind of make it work. But at the same time, like it's not overly penal where like you get to 14 at trails, and if you miss on a side, you might be going back over the other side. And I know that hole can open up a whole different conversation. But yeah, I mean, it's just really, you look at every hole and it's fun, and you're going to have a good time out there.
Yeah. And you're so humble because the par 5 he mentioned, he hit a great drive and then like a 4 hybrid to like 8 feet for eagle, and had an easy little tap in birdie. That was quite the second shot right there.
Yeah, that was one of the more fun, the longer shots I hit that trip. We don't need to mention that I missed the hole entirely.
I didn't. That's why I didn't say it.
No, I'll throw it out there. But yeah, I mean, it was good. That was a fun one to hit.
Yeah. No, and I think that's to your point. I think what's so like, and again, this hopefully will make people feel excited to go see it. It's like the par 5s are, like you said, there's a lot of like strategy and like the opportunity to go for 2 with the right shot. The par 3s are like incredibly distinctive. I feel like cut, like there's in each of their own way. It's like they're very much cut into the sand and like very distinctive. So the 3s and 5s are great. And then there's like, I mean, how many drivable par 4s are there? There's at least 3 that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, when you hit it as long as you do, for sure, there's a couple out there to work with.
There's a couple.
You get the boomerang hole, you get number 10. Kind of uphill there.
Yeah. 14.
Which I think you pretty much flew it onto the front edge.
Yeah, up into the thick stuff, which was not the best place to leave it. But and then 14. But 14's a cool hole because I think what's great is like, I mean, to your point, I just decided to swing hard on this trip and the ball was really going. But I think 14's cool because someone who's a higher handicap playing from 1 up, I think it's kind of honestly kind of bunt a driver down there, right? And then I think it's kind of thrilling to give people the option of like to be able to, anybody can kind of watch the ball roll on and have a putt for 2. Like, again, accessible golf. Like, that's awesome that people go like, yeah, I drove the green on 14 and I had a look at 2 regardless of driving distance, right? Like, honestly, this is meant to be like a flex. But like, driver wasn't the right club. I hit it. Like, I hit a bad one, but like, probably not the right club. But it's great that really anybody can get the ball rolling down there and have a look at 2,
Yeah, and if somebody's listening and they haven't seen it, it's basically extremely downhill. You have this slope. It kind of all slants from kind of right to left. Tee box is elevated, plays out to the fairway. Fairway slopes hard downhill and right to left, and the green sits at the bottom of this slope. And basically, depending on the box you're playing, it's like if you can get it, 220, 230 yards off the tee past this bunker that sits in the middle of the fairway, it's going to take the slope and it's going to roll down, if not on the green, right around it.
Yeah.
The challenge then becomes, where's the pin and what is the slope that you've got to deal with after that fact. I mean, I got on the green with my tee shot and I 3-putted because I was in a spot where the slopes were not going to allow me to get that putt close no matter what I did. So that's kind of the fun of it, but it's a different hole. It's like if anybody's listening who's ever been to Cabot Cliffs, the 16th, it's kind of a similar version of that, except it plays all downhill instead of like up to a top of a hill and then down. And it doglegs left instead of doglegs right. But it's that kind of concept. It's 2 very similar holes in that respect. So yeah, definitely one that everybody can walk away with, kind of having a chance at that hero shot.
Yeah, totally. But I think that's the biggest thing it does well is like, yes, it's very wide, but what the width does is it allows for a lot of options. And then the other thing too is for better players, it allows for like true strategy. And for people who aren't as good, it just means that it's more forgiving, right? Your next shot might be harder, but you're going to be hitting from the fairway, which again is like I said, a perfect kind of resort golf course. Should also shout out, because I didn't get to play with him this round, but Casey shot, I don't think anybody knows this, but I should put this in our group chat to congratulate him, but I think he shot his best round ever at Mammoth on that Monday. He shot 75. He made another eagle. I think he made 3 or 4 eagles on this trip. Like, the dude is, I think he said he came in as a 10 and left the trip as a 6, which is incredible. When I saw he was a 10 and after he was hitting it, like day one, I was like, what? Like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. So shot his best ever and cut his handicap by 4 strokes. So shout out to Casey. That was incredibly impressive. 75 at Mammoth Dunes.
That's pretty sweet. And then also Daniel too. I mean, 5 under on the 16th tee before we got kind of rain.
I didn't know that. Really?
Rain short. Yeah, he was 5 under on the 16th tee. He shot 88 in the morning round on Sand Valley, and then was 5 under through on 16 tee basically. So that's just kind of representative of what can happen out there between those two courses, where you get it going a little bit and it can free you up. I mean, it's open, it's wide. It can turn some people loose off the tee. He's got speed too. He can rip it, so you can go and get after it out there.
5 under, like, because I know the USGA, you can post. I posted my 14, and you can see what it is. I mean, that must have been like a plus. I mean, that's still like a +4. Wow, talk about someone whose handicap's going to just crater. Oh, yep. But also I wish he could have finished that off. I don't know him well, but I gotta think he hasn't been 5 under before. Maybe he has.
I think that was his deep. He shot even par on Lido as well.
Wow.
Yeah, he played 2 really good rounds of golf.
Amazing.
Between those two.
Wow, that's really impressive. Anything else on Mammoth Dunes? You want to kind of flip the script to Lido?
No, I mean, I think we can swap over to Lido and go through that, and then maybe kind of start to try and make sense of how they all fit together at the resort from a rankings perspective. If that's what you want to dive into then too.
Yeah, let's do it. Lido, take us there, Matt. I mean, I think most people at this point know the story, but like, whatever you want to share. Again, I'm not even sure how I'm going to talk about it yet, but just take us to Lido. About as different a golf course as possible for Mammoth Dunes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way to contextualize Lido is basically it's an exact replica of a course that existed on Long Island, kind of before and during World War II, got taken over for military purposes, I think, during World War II and went away. And it was, I'm blanking on architect, I think it was Rayner, right? Is that
CB
correct?
McDonald. CB.
Or McDonald, there we go. It was McDonald. So, and it kind of had all these template holes, and it was on the ocean, and everything you go read about it, just like this amazing place. And so what they did is they basically took a huge open, I would say almost field out there at Sand Valley. It feels like a big open field, and it was their own.
They clear cut it. I asked them, so that was all trees. They clear cut that rectangle basically to build it.
Dang.
Which is crazy.
Okay, so they clear cut this rectangle, and now it's just this big open rectangular space, and it's like basically they had a big sandbox, and they took it. It's like basically they took and made that golf course over again in the same orientation and everything as it was before. And yeah, I don't know what you compare it to. It's totally unique. It's kind of like when I was trying to wrap my head around it, I kind of went to Old Mac, but then I also went to like Scotland and Ireland stuff that I've seen, and it's like if you took Scottish and Irish golf and kind of made it modern is the best thing that I could put my head into. It's wide. It's got these, crazy bunkers. Like you stand on a tee and you're like, where am I hitting this? Which is very much like reminds me of some Scottish and Irish golf. Definitely the Scottish golf, because you don't necessarily have huge elevation change on a lot of the tee shots. But there's just so much contour and stuff out there. There is a lot more elevation change than you would expect if you've seen photos of it online. But you stand on the tee and you're like, where do I hit this? There's bunkers and stuff that are, people say hiding. I thought, once you kind of get a yardage book or you've got a caddy, like it's easy to navigate out there. And I think it's plenty friendly off the tee, but it just presents I mean, the template holes are phenomenal. Like every shot kind of makes you think. The tee shots make you think. It's like, where do I want to put this? You've got different options, like the 10th, playing up over the huge mound essentially that's blind into a green. You can send it way right and have a look and a longer shot, or you can send it left towards that mound. You're gonna have a blind shot. You'll have, like a pitching wedge in versus like a 7 or 8 iron if you go over to the right. But I mean, there's just so much different stuff to think through there, and then the slopes and things around the greens, the bunkers. Like it's really like if you took and like modernized links golf. It's like if you built St. Andrews kind of for the modern era. It's almost like that's the best way I can describe it. But it's, raised greens, scale, those deep bunkers, kind of pot bunker style, all throughout. I mean, I walked off of there and I was like, man, that is unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it, it's like multiple things at the same time, because I think for context, to give people a sense of like, when you go play Lido, you actually like leave the property. So like the weird thing is, it just like everything about, from the minute you like get in the shuttle and say you're going to Lido to the time you like pull back out of the shuttle, it's like everything feels significant, because like, for Lido, it's like, I think there's like an 8-minute shuttle ride, you have to kind of go through the gate. But then you finally get there and you see it, and like it originally looks like absolutely nothing. Like it looks like it's entirely flat. It's almost like a soccer field. And there's this little clubhouse that's like super understated. And so, but you're confused because like you walk out of the clubhouse and like everything looks so flat. But to your point, I think what's fascinating is the way it's designed is it's also deceptive. Where like there's not many tee shots that are like very clear. Again, to your point, like you have to have a caddy, and like I think that if they just like rolled us out there, especially with like no yardage book, and like play it, I think it wouldn't be any fun at all. I think that like having a caddy and like a companion to like chart your way around is what makes it so enjoyable. Like it very much feels like you're going on a you're like we're on a hunt, right? It's a battle or something. And it's like you and your caddy, and you're kind of like strategically, like if you just like charge in, you're going to get slaughtered. But if you can kind of plod your way around, it's really, really fun. But yeah, it's fascinating because like, it feels so flat, but then, you hit your drive on one and the fairway's super wide, and then you get up there and like there's these bunkers that are like, you can't quite see the flag because the bunker's there. And then, okay, you can walk off that hole and then hit it over the rock. You can't actually see where you're going, even though it's not that high. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, in the same way that like I feel like I was anticipating playing Lido for like since we booked this trip, it's like you try not to get ahead of yourself, but you find yourself on every shot like very like in sort of a pleasant way. You're anxious about what's next, right? It's like, okay, I had a really good drive on one, but like what does that mean for the next shot? And then you putt, and then you're walking over, and it's like you pull out the yardage book and you're like, okay, like, but it's like, unfortunately, because of just pace of play, it's like 5 hours of that. You're just like always like thinking about like what's next. And I think what I really love about like more strategic and harder golf courses is like it really forces you to like lock in. And Lido is like a place where it's like I don't really think you have another option than to lock in. I think the way a lot of our group felt is like you played great, and it sounds like Daniel did too. I think the big thing though is like I wish we could have played it like either like maybe just that morning, because I think like our group was like getting like pretty like there was a couple times it was kind of funny. I kind of feel weird saying this, but like the other caddy, the guy who was not my caddy, we were on like 7 or 8, and he's like, man, he's like, you're a stick, and I was like, thanks, man. Like I'm not really a stick. Like thank you. And he's like, but I gotta give you some feedback, and I was like, what? And he's like, you need to like lock in every shot. He's like, you make some stupid mistakes, and I was like, buddy, like you're not wrong, but like I'm tired. Like I'm really, really tired at this point. Like I'm not trying to like make bad swings. Like I'm trying to be in my process. But that was interesting. Like those times at Lido where like I lost focus, it was really penalizing. Like really, really penalizing. Like I think it was number 6 or 7. Like the almost like drivable par 4. I think, or 5, maybe after the channel hole. The one that had like kind of like the heather left.
The Cape hole.
Yeah. So basically my caddy was like very insistent. He was like, you know, aim there or right, and I kind of just like left the face open, and that was just like a 2, 3, 4 shot mistake, because then I got over in the heather, and then I kind of like chunked it in the bunker, and then like, you know, and you can't actually attack the flag because the greens are so firm. And it was one of those that like just like casually leaving the face open 2 degrees, you're like, oh my god, I just walked off with like a triple, and I had all this room right. And so I think what was so interesting is, like I said, it's like this anticipation. Like you're anticipating to play it, but every shot you're sort of thinking about like what's next. But then you really need to lock in on the shot you're hitting, or else you're going to make a mistake, and it's going to cost you more than just about any other golf course you've ever played.
Yeah, the slope rating's super high. I mean, if you just contextualize it with that, like you look at what the rating is, and it's high, and it's because it's got those sharp edges. I mean, for somebody that doesn't have a short game around the greens, or just like the bunker shots are the prime example. It's like some of these greenside bunkers are, you know, they're as deep as you are tall,
Yeah.
and if not more. And you just got to be comfortable to be able to get out of that, or you're going to have, I mean, you're going to be in your pocket for some people in those bunkers. But I mean, it's both exacting, but also in some places friendly at the same time. Like the tee shots, there are some holes where it pinches you, like the channel hole, like you've got to kind of you got to step up and hit a tee shot. That Cape hole that you were talking about, like you got to step up and hit a tee shot. But in a lot of places, I feel like it kind of lets you send it off the tee.
Yeah.
There were some spots where I was like, hey, there's a bunker out there. That's the one place I can't hit it. I can pretty much just aim out there and send it, and basically hope I'm not going to go in that if I'm going to hit it hard.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So there's some spots where you can go do that, but where I think it kind of steps up the challenges around the greens and into the greens.
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of got to be on guard and ready to go, because if you miss in the wrong spot, you're going to pay for it, or you're going to have some really uncomfortable, you could have an uncomfortable look over a pot bunker where you've got a chip, you're short-sided, and you're off tight turf. And like you mentioned, it's incredibly firm. And for me, that was part of the fun. I mean, it runs out there, and, hearing that bounce echo down through, which you hear it, abandoned, but like the first and second and sometimes third bounces all echoed out there on the greens. Like you'd hit a flip wedge or a chip shot from nearby onto the green, and it echoed. Like it was crazy.
I mean, Cody had one of those, because for context, like I don't know exactly, but Lido basically has like the biggest greens I've ever seen. Cody had like a 100-foot putt, and he hit it so hard, obviously the putt kind of like jumped a little bit. It thumped on his putt. Like when he putted it and it went off the ground like an inch, it made a little baby thud that you could hear. And we were just like, that is insane. And again, like you and I have both played a lot of golf. I've played firm golf courses. And actually, a month ago I was in Minnesota playing golf there, and we were commenting on the firmness. But like someone said, it was like hitting like a piece of plywood hitting like a trampoline with like wrapped in like almost like a cloth. Like it's not just like firm, like it's not the thump that you're used to. It's one of the most distinct sounds. But to your point, I mean, I thought it was enjoyable too. But the other thing too is, I think one of the reasons I didn't play great is like it took me like 12 or 13 holes to get comfortable. I remember that I made my first birdie. I think you made it too. It was the hole before the Redan hole. That hole was like probably one of the easier holes out there. But it was literally my caddy. He was like, "You have 100 yards. You got a bit of a backstop." He's like, "Just go." He's like, he could tell I was kind of I had been on my back foot a lot. He's like, "Hit the shot. Like this one's not going to go over." And I hit it to like 3 feet. And he's like, "Okay, cool." But most of the day it was like, because he was like short. So from 56 yards, like the first hole, I had 55 yards in, and I hit my chip like 30 yards because I was so worried about it going long. But that's cool. I mean, I think the whole thing about Lido is you're experiencing something that should not exist. You're experiencing something that is not really going to exist anywhere else. And even the way it plays is so fundamentally different. Especially, too, because, I mean, we all know about sandy soil, but, like, dude, the night before, I mean, it literally, like, absolutely, scary, like, monsoon sandstorm. And that place...
1.5 inches of rain.
Was it that much?
Yeah, it was 1.5 inches of rain.
If it does that in the Bay Area, like in SF, like the courses are like wet for like 2 weeks. Like it couldn't have been any firmer than it was the next day.
mean, I can't imagine if it didn't rain how firm it would have been.
Yeah, crazy.
It just drains. It drains so well with all the sand.
Yeah, but I'm curious. Like the thing that's going to be hard to articulate to people though is like, how would you describe, like, this is not one of my favorite words, but like how would you describe like the vibe at Lido? And to be clear, I don't mean like the staff or anything. Like it felt like kind of spooky to me, like truly, like it sort of felt like we were a place we weren't supposed to be. And I know there's all the history of it, but like it just kind of felt like a little eerie out there to me. And that's not because of the logo. I'm just saying there was like something in the air that just, it kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think what like kind of helped with that was we had kind of fun different light and clouds out there while we were
Yeah,
playing.
it's true.
It was like kind of like it was sunny, and then it got like everything kind of went behind the clouds, but there were like high clouds, so like there was still like light low, and it like kind of, I don't know, it gave a fun different light out there. And then we kind of had a burner sunset once that sun kind of came down
Yeah.
under the clouds. It was pretty epic out there. But yeah, it's, to be honest, like one of the things I just kind of remember we were talking about while we were there, like the golf course I've played recently that it reminds me the most of, or maybe is the closest thing I can compare it to, is Stream Song Black. Um, it kind of has a similar feel and vibe to being out there, and it's just like it's this big open space, and like you kind of like see people pop up here and there, kind of around, the different green moundings, or some of the kind of dunes that are out there, or the structures. I mean, it's just like it's that same type of feel as Stream Song Black, big open space. There is elevation change, but it's just got these like sharper modern edges to it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's really different and unique because it's not natural
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form. And I think maybe that's part of the feel that
Yeah.
you get, is like it almost feels like you're walking into something that's like it would be like walking into some sort of crazy historical, like almost like not like the pyramids or something, but it's like
Yeah.
something that was made by like some sort of, it feels like was made by like some sort of bigger power. But at the same time, like it was, it was shaped. I mean, everything that's out there was shaped from sand. And it's just like I think you feel small out there is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. And you feel it a lot because, again, when you first pull into property, you don't see it. But like when you think about, just off the top of my head, like when you're hitting your second shot, like when you climb up to the channel hole, right? Like, or I forgot the hole. Oh, is it the punch bowl hole? Looking through the yardage book right now. Yeah, the channel hole is like super raised, and you're kind of like, whoa. The ocean hole, like that par 3, like I played it from the Navy tees, and it says 236 on here. It was 262 that day. And I hit it over on the left. And to your point about like short game, is like I have a decent short game, but like the wall of grass, the raised area to go from where I was to the flag was like 15 feet high. And then again, like even if I flop it, which I didn't think I could do, I was like, well, I can't really get this to stop anywhere near the hole because the green is like concrete. So then you have that one, and then yeah, what's the hole that I'm thinking of? Oh yeah, the punch bowl hole, right? Like it's so raised and it's so elevated, and so there's just these moments. I guess to your point, it's like you look up and the sky, like it's kind of the clouds and the sun are kind of doing weird things, and the bugs are starting to bite you through your socks, and like you're standing in front of this like mound that's like 25 feet high, and you're on this place that like existed, but like way over on the other side of the country, and you're just kind of like, what is happening, right? Like, because like it happens at golf course all the time. Like, Pasatiempo is my favorite course ever, but like Pasatiempo, it's like, cool, like this makes sense, right? Like it's a golf course. Like you play Band and Trail, it's like, wow, Corin Crenshaw found some really cool holes on a hike. And then you play Lido, and it's like, like I know the story, but like what is this doing here? Like why does it look like this? Because to your point, it's so sharp and it's so jagged, and it's so like, yeah, there's just so many straight lines, even though it's not like a straight line golf course.
Yeah, it's unnatural, but it just all feels so cohesive at the same time to like what it's doing out there. It doesn't feel like anything else. I mean, I could imagine it maybe feeling like, like National Golf Links. I haven't played there, but seeing pictures and like,
Yeah.
Obviously that same style, like again, those sharp edges, like kind of raised greens, that like modern look and feel to some stuff like that. Oh, this was manufactured rather than found is really what it is. But yeah, it's special. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect going in. It gave me something was completely different than what I expected. Almost didn't like take expectations into it. I mean, I made the reel for the USGA to announce that the Mid-Am, or yeah, I think it's the Mid-Am was going there. So on the USGA's page and Sam Valley's page, like I edited that together, and some of it was my footage, and some of it was from the Sam Valley team. But I hadn't really like stepped foot on site when I shot it. I kind of flew the drone from kind of like a far corner of the property.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't really get a sense of it from the air. It's like once you get in it, it's totally different.
Yeah, because I sent my dad the screenshot of the arrow, and he goes, "That looks crazy." But like, I told him afterwards, I'm like, "It's even crazier when you get on the ground." It's like, which is insane. Did you have a favorite hole? I mean, I know there's so many distinctive ones, but was there one in particular that struck you?
That's a good question.
And I can start if you need a second.
Yeah, talk about yours for a second. I'm just kind of running through them in my head, and this is again like one of those things for me that kind of points out that it's a great golf course. It's like I can remember all of these holes like very vividly, which is the cool part.
100%. And also a shout out to them. Like the yardage book they give you is awesome. Like I'm just a dork, and so like we walked off every tee box, and I was reading to our group the hole, and I'm like, I don't really care if y'all want this. Like I'm gonna do it. Like this is awesome, and like you need to know what this is.
It's a Lee Wypranski yardage book too, which is cool. So he's the guy that does all the posters at like U.S. Opens and things like that.
I was gonna say this is like gorgeous. Like that makes a lot of sense. Hell yeah. For me, it was number 11, the Lagoon hole. So just to read out of the book, Lagoon evokes the spirit of the old course at St. Andrews. The fairway provides no hint of a preferred line with massive width and seemingly random bunkering. Like literally, that's the Lido in a nutshell. Strategy will change daily depending on the wind direction and hole on this massive green. And for context, it looks like on here, like at the pin in the middle, it says plus 20 and the yards. Yeah, so I guess it's a 40-yard green. And I think it's even wider than that. But yeah, I don't know what it was. I think for me it was like so much of Lido's like it was a blind tee shot, but then you walk up there. And I think the cool thing too is like based off where you hit it, it was just like the way I feel like we were like moving around through the bunkering. Like I could I don't know. It's just like, I think it was just also the way that hole played, but I thought the Lagoon one was awesome. 446 from Navy, 427 from White, 346 from Green, and 288 from Orange.
Yeah, that one was great. Actually, it's funny you said that. Like that's maybe the one green site that I can't remember as vividly as the others.
Yeah.
I remember the tee shot very vividly, but that's maybe the one green site where I can't remember. My head goes to the next hole, which was like the punch bowl, up over the blind mound. But I think, if there's one hole that I'd probably want to crack at again, it's probably number 10 up over the mound.
Helps.
I kind of had a caddy that was, for lack of better terms, maybe like a glorified like pack mule, essentially. Super nice kid, junior caddy, just didn't really know what he was doing. I mean, the best way to sum up my time with him is on 18, I hit my drive and he goes to shoot a number and he's like, it's 225 over there. And I was like, isn't our green over here to the left? And he was like, oh yeah, you're right. That's the green. So he was basically,
which is incredible that you played that well. Like with someone who was like inherently unhelpful.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into a whole different conversation on caddies, but for me, it's like, really for me, what I'm looking for in a caddy is like carry my bag, be a good conversation, and like if you're a single digit player, the odds are is that caddy is not going to have better reads or better knowledge of the game than you are. Like sure, they may have some local knowledge and be able to point you on a start line off a tee somewhere.
Yeah,
and maybe tell you where the spot to leave it is, but outside of that, like if you're a good player, like your decision and your gut feeling is going to probably be better
Yeah.
than that caddy's in most cases. And yeah, we got the two, and I basically was like, hey man, like this is going to be a chill loop for you. Like I don't really need much advice around the greens. I just need you to kind of give me a flag number and a front number, and like tell me kind of where to hit it off the tee. And
Yeah.
I unfortunately like, couldn't even trust him on that one because there was a couple times where he's like, yeah, you're going to hit it over this thing, and the other caddies in the group were like, no, that's the rock for the other hole. And I was like, great, cool.
Well, I guess we haven't even talked about this yet. We should talk about it. Like a good example of what Matt's talking about is like number 2. We're standing in the middle of the fairway. We have our yardage book open. Me and my caddy are doing our thing, and I feel a golf ball hit off my foot. And I was like, it didn't hurt, but I was like, what? And then, the other caddy like yells back, and then like another golf ball comes like flying past like Big Joe, and like, like we're basically about to hit our shots, and y'all come trudging over the hill, and I see the other caddy, and I was like, oh my god. I'm like, because for context, the reason I feel bad admitting this is like our 2 caddies were like Corn Ferry Tour Latino America caddies, so like my guy was like amazing at like very, very helpful, and he was stoked I was playing it from the back tees. He was like, he gave me all, like, the fact that I didn't play well was entirely on me, because like I'm with you on caddies. I just happen to have like the exact opposite. Like, wow, you're the one person because I don't like people to read greens for me, but him, I'd watched Jeremy had him before, and Jeremy made everything in the morning, and I was like, I'm just gonna trust this guy. But I saw the other caddy like walk back, and I was like, this guy is gonna fucking destroy these junior caddies, because like apparently they told us that like if someone gets hurt at Lido, it's on the caddies. So like,
yeah,
that ball, if that ball was hit me in the foot, it could have hit me anywhere. But your caddies didn't even.
Yeah, I mean,
your caddies had, didn't give you guys any insights that like, hey, they might still be like right there.
Yeah, no clue whatsoever. They were like, yeah, hit it over the rock. And we were like, okay, we're good to go. They were like, yep. And that was that.
Ugh. Yeah, so Matt's talking about hole 10, Alps. Alps kicks off a stretch of 3 difficult par 4s inspired by the famous 17th at Prestwick. C.B. McDonald reserved a view of the pin for those who play between the Alps Hill and the bunkers on the right with their drive. However, the golfer who does manage to hit the green will find it very receptive.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost kind of a bowl of a green too.
Yeah.
It's not a punch bowl, but it's got, it's got helpful contours, and it's got, with the way I went, I kind of fanned a drive for me as a lefty and ended up left. So I was playing up over the hill. So I ran up to the top of the hill, and it's a big hill. It's big hill. I'd compare it to the hill on 16 at Mac.
Yep.
Old Mac.
Yep.
It's it's that type of a hill is what you're looking at.
Also the Alps hole. I think that's what it's.
Yeah. So it's that type of a hill. So it's like you run up and check, and he's got some deep bunkers on that line in front of the green. I didn't really have a great number because of my trusty steed that I had on the bag. So I ended up in the bunkers short, and like I'd love to go back and just like have a crack at that now that I kind of got to understand that hole and like see I'd probably do things a little differently. I mean, but that's just like, again, a hole that you don't see anywhere else. I mean, you could say it about every hole out there is just so good. I mean, I just can't wait to go back and play that place again, because I think the more you play it, the more you unlock out there, and it's just amazing.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's maybe not the course I'd want to play like every day per se, but it's a place that like the more I play, the better you play. And I think if that's a place where you're kind of iron sharpening iron, like if you and I like, moved there for 6 months and played Lido 5 times a week, like we'd have no choice but to become better golfers. Like that's just, either that or we'd quit. I think you and I being sickos, we'd probably play 10 times instead of 5.
Yeah, I mean the other thing like I go to, like the par 3s are so good out there too. It's just again, just like the slopes, the contours, the different challenges that it offers. Like you got the short on the back, and it's like it's a 130-yard shot, 135-yard shot, and it plays like relatively level. But with the contours and the sharp edges around that green, like it feels like a shot, like almost like you're getting up to hit it over water, and it's like you got to carry it there, or you're in trouble. And it's because of the bunkers and the surrounds, and it's just, again, it presents stuff and looks that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, Eden was great. Ocean was just brutal. And then we got, Short, and then we got the Redan, which was playing extremely hard. That was the only bad rate I got from my caddy, playing from the Navy tees. He told me, like, basically the guys playing white had 200, and I had a 5-iron that I thought was really good, and it, like, barely got into the bunker, and I was like, huh. They were like, yeah, like, we had 200 yards. There was no world in which that was going to get there. But, and also just thrilling, like the long hole, like, at 610, I think it was even longer for us. Like, I'm not, like, a distance dork, but, like, that was just kind of crazy to see, like, I had a good drive, I topped my hybrid, and then I hit a 290-yard 3-wood into the back bunker. But that's a good example of, like, this place being awesome. Like, I was so stoked to hit a, mega long smoked 3-wood, and I hit it in the back bunker, which is absolute prison. It's like, cool, it caught your ball, but, like, you're not in like, congratulations on hitting a 290-yard 3-wood. Like, you're not in a good spot. Like, you should have hit a 206, you should have just a little less and attacked it, but you can't attack it from the back bunker. So, like, congratulations for hitting it that long. This isn't a good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts other than, like, I think you and I want to go back and play there together tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've thrown out some of the comps I get from it, but, like, I have the same fun out there that I have when I go play Old Mac.
Mm-hmm.
It presents different challenges that you don't see in any other round of golf, different looks, different feels. It does some stuff that makes you uncomfortable. Like, if you're not comfortable with blind shots or, tee shots over mounds where you kind of can't see the landing area, like, it may not be for you. And, again, I think that's, some privilege I think that we have as lower handicap players out there, is that for me, like, I loved all the challenges that it put in front of me. I also was driving it, on a string all weekend, which really helps when you're out there in that setting. But yeah, I mean, it's one that, like, it stands out. You walk off of that, you can remember all 18 holes. The greens present unique challenges. If you miss, you've got, different short game shots that you have to hit. I missed long on that long par 3-8, and I had, some crazy mound stuff to navigate, up over and through from behind the green. And so it's a bunch of different shots. You hit every club in the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just high praise. I mean, it's probably top 5 for me. It's definitely top 10 as far as what I've seen and played. Just not really any good comp for it besides, like, some of the stuff that I've tried to throw out, and it's like mixes of pieces of those rather than, a good full comp.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, because I think the highest praise I can give Lido is sometimes you play a golf course that, how do I put this? I don't need to be nice. I'm not saying this about any distinctive place, but sometimes you play a place that doesn't really have a comp, but it's, like, in a stupid way. Like, I have not played here. I don't expect you to have, but Big, who I do the podcast with, like, he played this course in Southern California called, like, Tierra Rajada. And, like, again, all the Tierra Rajada people got in our mentions and were furious at us. But, like, the way Chris described it is, like, it's like a course that, like, if you and I, like, drank a bunch of beers and built, like, the most ridiculous thing we could build in, like, PGA Tour 2K23, it's like, okay, that's distinctive, but that's not good. And, that's not it. But I think for Lido, it's found a way to be, like, truly, like, it's the most unique golf course I've ever played in my life, but it's a place that, like, it both, like, but it also, like, makes sense, and it's, like, really good. And the other component too, because of the firm turf, it's really welcoming to, like, to your point, like, for lower handicaps or people who hit it a long way, it's asking one question. But I think it was actually like, one of the reasons I think I might have enjoyed it so much was I got to play with Ali, right? And, like, I'm hitting it, sorry, Ali, if this is wrong, 80 yards past Ali. But, like, through the first couple holes, like, I'm 2 over and he's 2 under, right? Because he's, playing the ball back in his stance, and, he's being a little bit more of an artiste than me, where I'm kind of being like your caddy. I'm being kind of like a donkey and being like, I just hit a 340-yard drive on one, but now I got like wiggly hands about a wedge. Now he's just like, back foot, hit it to 8 feet, make the putt. And I think that's incredible, where a place can be like, rating wise and slope wise, like that difficult. But it doesn't really matter if you hit it 350 or 250. If you're playing the right tees, like there are so many options. And then to your point too, I think sometimes I think about with golf courses is this isn't always a bad thing, because like we need municipal golf courses that could they be more interesting? Yes, but like there's some places like by local tracks where it's like I can find myself going to autopilot mode, right? It's like I hit this on regardless of anything. I can tell you like driver 9-iron driver like, and I think about and like you kind of end up in the same spots. And the thing about Lido is like I think that it's very rare that you would play that golf course and have the same shot and then do the same thing. It's not, you're not going to do that. And so I think that where golf courses should get a lot of kudos is playability, in the sense of like people of all, I'm not really going to say skill levels, because I really think that if you're like a 15, I don't really think you're going to have much fun at Lido. I guess that is like, I would say it falls into the Pine Valley-esque, like, I think you should be a single digit who hits at like 250 to like really enjoy Lido, which is not everybody. But I think if you fall into that bucket, it's never going to play the same way twice. You're never going to hit the same shot twice. And I think that like, again, whether you hit it 250 or 350, you can attack it and, be sensible at times, attack at times. And like you said, I think the more you play it, the better you know it. Like it really is a place that would only age better. And again, I feel like I have to go back, because like, I went into this being like, I'm so excited to play this one time and experience it. But then it's like, yeah, but because there's like 9,000 ways to move around the chessboard, that's not a place that I want to play once. Like those are the golf courses that I want to experience all the time, right? There's some golf courses that I really like, but you walk off and you're like, you know what? I feel like I've got a really good sense of that place, and that's all I need. That's all I need from it, and that's certainly not Lido.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of convey my feelings on it, like I'd go back there just to play that golf course a couple times in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, it truly, you can't take a shot off. The firmness, I think, adds to that. Like every shot is a puzzle that you kind of have to solve, and like you've got some wiggle room, but like again, like I said, it can jump up and get you. But it was, yeah. I mean, I just want to go back and play that place over and over again, and just kind of keep experiencing it.
Yeah, and ironically, because I felt this way with you early on at Mammoth, but I think one thing that I knew we were sort of kindred spirits is, I've talked in here before, my favorite way, like, look, like there are times occasionally where I want to load up a car with some beers and hit some shots. But for me, normally when I play golf, I like to be sober. I like to have some sort of like very low stakes competition. I like to lock in, and I sort of like to walk off a course and have a sense of like, how did I play that day? Like I'm not like score obsessed, but like I totally understand this, how some people play, and a place like Sandbox is for it, but I'm not a big like take my shoes off, like just hit 4 balls. Like I kind of treat golf as like an opportunity to like lock in and focus on something. And I think that's why, like I have a reputation amongst my friends of like, that's why I tend to like harder golf courses, players golf courses, like those places where it's like, this is going to be like a proper test. And I think that Lido is, I think probably the best example of that of any golf course ever played, like straight up, like, cause like Pasatiempo is like great, but I think that it's not even, you can't even compare Pasatiempo to Lido. Like that's like saying, do you want Wagyu or like tiger shrimp? Like, I mean, they're both delicious top tier proteins, but that's not really the same comparison at all to me, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're after there.
Yeah. Okay, so I know we're at an hour. Do you want like a couple options? Do you want to kind of like rank your courses? Do you want to quickly chat about kind of like Bandon? Like what do you want? How do you want to wrap this up?
I think let's go into ranking, because I think that's fun and different with Sand Valley now, with Lido there and Sedge and kind of the full offering, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have your 4 in order?
Yeah, I think maybe. It's
Well, you
hard.
can
I
explain
mean,
it. I
it's
mean, because I think that yeah, I think it's you'll get the opportunity to explain to the jury why.
yeah. I mean, I think so. When I first went, my ranking was Sand Valley one, Mammoth two.
Hmm.
Um, in subsequent visits, I think those paired up even closer, and I think they complement each other really well. Like Sand Valley is more of I'd say more of like a true championship test, and it's not maybe even a championship test. I think that's the wrong way to describe it, but it's a good test of golf. Like the greens out there are the opposite of Mammoth. Mammoth is kind of a bowl as far as the greens go, and slopes move you closer. At Sand Valley, if you catch the wrong slopes, they move you away from the hole. But at the same time, like I've been out and played Sand Valley and had a caddy that was there since they only had 6 holes there and they were doing preview play, and he kind of pointed me around that place the one day and was like, "Here, you're going to hit it this number here on this line." And every time I did what he asked, it brought the slopes, brought it close to the hole, and made a bunch of birdies and had a ton of fun. So
Yeah.
it's like that's out there too. It's two very different. I think they complement each other so well. It's like go and get asked specific questions or have to execute different shots on Sand Valley, and then go out to Mammoth, and it's like, hey, you can kind of go take some shots off here because the corridors are wide and things like that, and the slopes help you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like it can test you in fun different ways, and it's like, can you land this ball on that slope to get it even closer? Can you do this? So I don't know. I think those two are pretty tied for me. Um, and I think, I mean, just my initial thoughts on this, like coming out of this trip, like the Lido with how it kind of blew me away with the experience, and like me saying like I'd go back there just to play that golf course. Like
Hmm.
I think that's probably top for me
Hmm.
at the resort right now. If you were going to kind of hold my feet to the fire and make me pick, between Sand Valley and Mammoth, I'm I think that I'm going. I think I'm going Sand Valley still.
Hmm.
I mean, it again, it's like by the thinnest of margins.
Hmm.
Um, and again, I think that maybe comes from like the test that it provides me as a better player. I really like. There's some shots out there that make me uncomfortable, but uncomfortable in a fun way.
The tee shot on 11.
Like
Oof. Tee shot on 16. Oof. Like the way the tee box
yep,
orients is like, I just don't point me that direction. Like,
yeah, or even like one and two is the approach shot into two is
yeah.
kind of blind
Don't
to a
go
green
left.
that
Don't go long.
slopes off on every side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, there's also some really really great holes out there too. It's as we talked about with Mammoth earlier. So I go Lido, Sand by the thinnest of margins, Mammoth, and then I'm putting Sedge last out of the full size courses for me.
Yeah.
Um, and we could go into a whole conversation on that. I thought Sedge was a lot of fun and really good, but also I think I had different expectations for it versus what I saw
Hmm.
and like what we experienced. Again, like still would sign up and go play that golf course again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like I don't want anybody to take away that I didn't like this course, but like I think when you have the Lido being the truly unique golf course that it is, like kind of without a comp in most cases,
Right.
or in pretty much all ways, and then you have just the amazing. There's like so many like moments on Sand Valley and on Mammoth where you're like, if it's your first time playing it, you're gonna walk up to a tee box and be like, whoa, and like you're gonna do that pretty much on every tee.
Yeah.
And for me, Sedge has a lot of those moments where you're like, whoa, this is really cool, but like I think it doesn't have the benefit of some of the scale that the other three have. I think in like the setting that some of the other three have.
Hmm.
I think the par threes on Sedge are all world. Like you got
For
an
sure.
incredible set out there. The short fours are unbelievable, but I think it gets into like some of the stuff on the back nine is like still amazing golf holes, but just like the landscape isn't as impressive. Maybe
Yeah.
is what I have in my head right now. But again, like the context of this is like that golf course is probably still an 8.5 out of 10. It's
Yeah.
like it's an amazing place that if you told me I had to go play golf there tomorrow, I'm like, yeah, let's go do it. So
Yeah.
um, so I think that's kind of where I stand right now. I mean, if I was going to split, I think the real good way to do it is like if you were going to split 10 rounds,
Yeah.
like how are you going to do it between those four? And I'm probably going 3-3-3-1 is probably my route right now, just based off of how I feel about the courses just coming off of the trip, with it being fresh.
Yeah. I think we're aligned from same Lido, Sand Valley, Mammoth, and Sedge. But to give my rationale, I'm with you. I think that and again, look, my dad has played Pine Valley. I have not, but to me, my takeaway to people would be if Lido was fully private and somebody in the same way that literally the guy I played with on Monday, super nice guy, probably a 15 handicap. He told me that through work he had played Cypress, and I always joke with him. I said, I don't want to hear your thoughts about the course. I said, I got two questions. How much notice did you have? And then how much you spent at the pro shop? I don't need to hear about, I know Cypress Point's great. And it was the classic, someone called him and he needed to get there in 24 hours from Chicago. Exactly what you'd expect. But I really think that, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I think that, especially if people could not see it, especially if it was sort of behind the proverbial paywall, it would be a place that someone was like, hey, Matt, can you get from Dallas to here in 2 days, tomorrow? It's that good. It's that distinctive. It's that memorable. I think actually Sally from No Laying Up, it's similar to what he said about PASA. He said that he thinks PASA is underrated in the rankings because it's public access, because there's not that mystique behind it. And Lido has the mystique in the sense of the whole backstory, but I think that what people should realize is if you're going to Sand Valley and you're paying, I don't even care what the full rack rate is, if you're getting to just play that place, it's the kind of place that if it was private, you would, similar to a Cypress or a Pine Valley, I think you would drop everything to go play there. And the fact that you get to play there on a trip is unbelievable. And so for me, that inherently has to be one. Sand Valley's number two. I'm a bit biased, big Core Crenshaw guy. I think that I got to workshop this a little bit, but I think that if someone, it's the classic, I'd play that course every day. I think that that's maybe the golf course I would want to, if someone was where do you play 80% of your golf? The answer would be Sand Valley. Love trails, but trails is a bit of it's a hike. Trails kind of feels like it needs, in the same way that if you and I were to go hiking as buddies, we go on a Saturday, right? It's an event. That's not really how Sand Valley feels. it's there's moments where there's a hard walk, but it's pretty flat. It's not the hardest walk. I just loved that golf course. It was I told my dad, we were members at Cusquilla, which is one of the Core Crenshaw designs, and I said, it's literally Cusquilla's open in 97. This place opened in 2017. It's Core Crenshaw with 20 years of kind of seasoning their craft. And I think that it's there's plenty of really hard shots, playing it from the back tees on Monday. Man, that tee shot into 3, I had 217 yards to a back left flag and just, death left, bunker, death right if it goes running away. Some really exacting golf shots, but it's a 131 slope. It's not the hardest golf course. There's a few times and you really need to lock in, but you can definitely go get it as well. So loved that. Loved Mammoth. It's just the Core Crenshaw of it all, I think, really ties me to Sand Valley. And I felt similar to Sedge. But in fairness to Sedge, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way, this is definitely golf course agronomy dork. It was very clear to me that Sedge, for people playing it right now, it's not playing the way that they want it to play. There was plenty of times where, I hit bad shots, but, I chunked 2 in a row on 3 because, it was, very weird, turf interaction. It's kind of the ground just kind of gave way. So it's one of those things that, I still think it's probably going to be 4, maybe 3. But, I'd love to go back in 2 years when it's fully grown in. It was my take on PASA. I played PASA 2 weeks after the front 9 opened, and it just wasn't ready. It just wasn't quite ready. I've heard it's great now. I just don't think it was playing the way that, it's really supposed to. I'm not ripping them. I know they got to open it at some point and get people out there. I think that was maybe my favorite walk. The way I put it is, I would kind of love to just grab a couple beers and follow you around, because I think it's so beautiful, it's so distinctive. Again, Lido is eerie, so much of this place is eerie how open it is. Lido's so open, and then Mammoth and Sand Valley are great, but there's just a lot of trees. This feels different. There's like little shrubs. Like it just feels very different. It's very quaint. It's probably the place I'd want to go like walk around more than the other places, but I feel like I can't really give it a rating until it grows in a little bit more. But I am with you that like even without it playing the way that I think that it should, there was still like several par fours where I was like, huh, okay. Like there's just nothing really about this hole that's like wow, or like, and when you're comparing it against the list of what we're talking about, it's sort of my take on Sheep is like when you have Mike Kaiser telling you that there's like 14 or 15 good holes, it just can't be that high on your list because he's admitting that there's some afterthoughts. In Sheep, it makes total sense, but it feels to me like there's a few holes that I imagine like Doak maybe didn't love. But then there's also, to your point, that the par three is like the downhill par three kind of into the punch bowl where it's like 200 yards. Like, wow, hard, challenging, like, good shots are awarded. Like a lot of really good stuff. But would love to play it again later. But I do think that the fact that there's several kind of like, take it or leave it holes, especially on the back nine, that definitely puts it bottom for me. And I think also too, like I'm not trying to be a contrarian or like Larry David, but I think the other thing too is like, and I'm not making fun of people who say it's like our buddy Mason, who actually is a big Minnesota golf guy. I know this is his take and I respect Mason knows what he's talking about. The people who play it and walk off and are like, that's definitely the best course on property. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm sorry. It's like when smart golf people, I don't know how you can walk off Sedge and be definitive that that's the best course on property. Maybe I'd have Mason on and have him share his thoughts. I think that it's a great logo, to your point, world-class par threes. But there's just no, like, comparing Lido and Sedge is just like, I mean, what are we doing? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think some of it's intentional. Like it's the perfect complement to what they have going on
Totally.
there. It is a par 68. It is a shorter walk. It is an easier walk.
Yes.
It's meant to be different, and I think that's part of it. I think the other thing that's for me is like I'm sitting here listening to you talk about it and like thinking about like how I reacted to it as I went through it. For me, I think the photography part bleeds into it for me too. With shooting golf, something I think that lends itself to me really enjoying a golf course is like, do I want to, basically, do I come up to every tee box and like want to take a picture? Do I walk around and like have a bunch of looks? And like that place, I think, like, again, incredible golf course to look at. I think it would shoot way better from the air than it does from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have as much of the moments of like, oh, I need to put the camera in my hand and take a photo of this look right now on that golf course as I do on sand or on Mammoth or, out at Lido. And that's like just a weird aspect for me that like, that doesn't change how the golf course plays in any way, shape or form. But like, it's something that sits in my head as like places where it has the visuals that strike me, I think also lends to me liking a place. And that could be part of it for me.
Yeah.
And again, like, the context I'll give is like, it's like an 8.5 out of 10 for me. Like, it's an amazing golf course, but I think it's designed to be different. It's designed to be a different complement. It's like the in-between of like, it's basically like, how do you shift down a gear from the super fun aspect that you have on Mammoth, but like not take it all the way down to be the sandbox.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a half it's like the half step between those two.
Yeah.
Is kind of what it is.
Yeah. And two more thoughts. The other thing I think is kind of like we talked about with Mammoth. I think that if like Sedge Valley were just a course and pick any surrounding, it doesn't have to be Wisconsin, Minnesota. It's a place that I'd play once and not be like, I got to get back there. I just don't think I would feel that way. I think that it fits amazingly in the ecosystem of the resort. And the other thing too is like, and I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because partly the reason I love Sand Valley is the Core Crenshaw. But the reason Core Crenshaw resonate with me so much is I think that there's a through line. Like I think I might have told you this story. My dad is a big golfer and, likes golf courses, but like is not an architecture dork. And I sent him a picture when I was at Trails my first time. And he said, I don't know where you are, but I know those are Core Crenshaw bunkers. It was 15 at Trails. And that was sort of a light bulb moment. And it was the same thing when like I sent him a picture with no context of like the green side at 2. And he goes, that's a, like, there's something about Core Crenshaw where like it's almost like the distinctive painter where it's like you see, if you know what you're looking for, you can just see their work. And I think the thing is like, my opinion is that like, if that wasn't a Tom Doak, I just don't think people would salivate the way that they do. And the other problem to me is like, that place did not, I know that Doak isn't as like distinctive as Core Crenshaw, but I didn't walk off there and be like, oh yeah, that's a Doak. I mean, there are certain times I talked myself into it where I was like, that was kind of mean. Like, I guess that's like Doak pulling a Doak. But I think even Evan said that it felt more Core Crenshaw than Doak. But that's sort of what I'm saying is like, I'm not sure that it knows what it is, right? And so it's like, it's got Doak on the card. It's got this really, cute, awesome looking fox. But then like when you actually go out there, my challenge people is like, does it feel like a Doak? And is that a place, if you removed it from Sand Valley, you would feel the need to go to? And I think you'd enjoy it, but like, there's plenty of golf courses I've played that I really haven't thought much after I left, and I think that's Sedge. Granted, it could play totally different when it's like firm and fast and yada, yada, yada. But to me, it's like, if you think about comparison to like the distinctiveness of Lido, the Core Crenshaw of Sand Valley, the uniqueness of Mammoth, it's fourth, and that's totally fine. It's like my opinion on sheep, right? It's like, sheep's towards the bottom, but like, I'm happy it exists, and that's Core Crenshaw, right? It's like, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah. The thing that I kind of was thinking about while I was walking around out there is like, you go back to like, if you've read I think it's the Dream Golf book that Kaiser has, like the first one, and he talks about how like they were building the holes and he'd come in and like kind of give his seal of approval as like, this is worthy of making this trip out here, or paying, or I forget how he actually phrases it, but like like him coming in and seeing the hole and be like, yeah, let's build this. I just feel like there's a couple holes out there that's like, I think there's a lot of holes where like you'd stand there with it shaped and like roughed in and be like, yeah, this is amazing, build it. But I also think there's some holes out there where you're like, could we maybe done something different here?
Yeah.
Potentially. Like, I'm not an architect. I can understand some of it, but and like I said, it's all with the context of like still so much fun and like the perfect thing for the resort. It's just I think we hold everything that is Dream Golf and Kaiser to such a high standard.
Totally.
And I think it's like you expect to be awed at every turn, and like it's a very high bar to set, and maybe not a fair bar to set. But I mean, I think they did a great job. I think it's awesome. It's just it has a little different dimension than the other stuff.
Yeah, and I think that the way, if you have the perfect option, I personally think the way to orient your trip on the big courses is Sand Valley and Sedge day 1, Lido and Mammoth day 2, because I think that I like to start the trip with the OG. I think that's important context of like, this is the place that started the place. And then you kind of go smaller for Sedge. Because the only thing I didn't like about our day on Saturday was Sand Valley and Mammoth kind of there's like big scale sand. It all kind of started to run together. So I think having a little bit of a difference around, Sand Valley and Sedge are going to feel super different. And then Lido is this like flat sand, and then Mammoth is like raised sand, right? Again, like the way our trip was great. I just was thinking like, what is the perfect way to do that? Like, I think that might be a good way to break up the trip.
I'd almost go a little different approach, and I kind of say the same thing for Bandon. If it's your first visit, and knowing the way I feel about the courses now, and like having been to them, and like where those moments are where you're like, wow.
Yeah.
I think I'd almost send people to, like, you can come in and do the sandbox first. You can do the sandbox whenever. Like, you're gonna have a blast on that no matter what. It's an amazing short course. I'd almost tell people to start on Sedge.
Huh. It's kind of a little handshake.
And then continue.
Yeah.
And then continue to build. For me, it's like, if people ask me what to do first at Bandon, I tell them to go play trails first. And the reason for that is my first visit out there was unique because I got to spend 8 days because it was a COVID thing. And I was there with the Golfer's Journal trip when they were opening Sheep Ranch. And it was like, any golf we added was half price. I was on furlough from work from Top Golf at the time, and I just stayed and kept adding.
Hell yeah.
So like I played a ton of golf in 8 days out there, sometimes 2.5, 3 rounds a day. And like I only played trails once while I was there, and the reason for that was like you get this just like ocean shock to the face, you know? And like I feel like with Sam Valley you get the same thing with the dunes and the massive scale. And for you to fully appreciate trails if you're a first time visitor. And
I love this.
For you to, I think, for you to fully appreciate trails if you're a first time visitor, and you to fully appreciate sedge, I think, if you're a first time visitor at Sam Valley, go play them first before you see the other stuff, because then you don't have that
bias,
like jaded lens of for trails the ocean, or for sedge the huge dunes and like what you're going to experience in the other parts of the property at Sam Valley. And I think if you go into that without that other context, like it's going to let you appreciate it more from the get go. And like this is my thing with trails. Like I said, I played it once in 8 days when I went the first time. Now I won't miss trails, or I'll make sure I play trails multiple times, because like I have a whole new appreciation for that golf course. Because you know, as you go back, if you're fortunate enough to go back, like you get to unlock some of those things and like learn it and really get to see it in different settings and, you know, weather and conditions. And like that's important. But like there are some things that probably are like, you know, give you some bias towards like how you feel about these golf courses if you see some of the more impressive ones on property first. And impressive is relative. Like you might think these two courses are your favorite golf course. It's like the things that ultimately are going to make you feel that are hard to separate out of the golf course itself is like the scenery and the setting and, you know, and in the ocean. Like it is really hard to separate out the fact that you are on the Pacific Ocean and those huge cliffs on every other golf course, and then you're going to go into the woods and play trails. And, you know, if you play sheep the first time and you get ocean to the face all afternoon or all morning, and then you go turn around and you go head into the woods, yeah, sure, you're still going to love trails and it still may resonate with you, but like you're going to have it's going to be harder to put those two next to each other.
No notes. I love that. That's a totally different perspective, but one that makes a lot of sense. And also too, I mean, is obviously sedge, we have our opinions, but like, again, I mean, I think trails is my second favorite golf course in the world. And like, yeah, when I hear people who are just out on trails, it breaks my heart. It's like, no, come on. And so, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because people will gravitate towards the ocean. I mean, I'm lucky living in the West Coast. Like, I'm not as awed as I once was by golf on the ocean, but I know that, like, you know, even kind of poking the bear a little bit on our trip, asking people Sand Valley versus Bandon. For a lot of people, the ocean is the like, I personally think the golf is better at Sand Valley, but like it is pretty amazing to hit all those shots on the ocean. And, you know, like 16 at Bandon makes you feel like hitting the shot at 16 at Bandon makes you feel something that like we didn't feel on this trip. We felt a lot of other things, but you don't feel that. And, you know, there's lots of other examples of that too. So yeah, I love that take.
Yeah, and I think one other thought I have that's like, I don't know if it's adjacent to that take, but like for me was we were talking about the rankings and like you were talking about Sand Valley versus Mammoth. There's courses in each of the rankings at Bandon and Sand Valley that bounce for me back and forth, and I think it depends on what you're in the mood for. Like I think this trip, like even though I rank Sand Valley slightly ahead of Mammoth right now, and you know as far as what I said, like I honestly I think I gravitated more towards Mammoth this trip because you know there's some times where like you just want to go enjoy it.
Yeah.
And like you can get beat up by, like you said, you can get beat up by trails, or you know you can get beat up by Sand Valley because of the slopes and stuff out there. And you know how you play is hard to separate from your enjoyment or your ranking, and it changes stuff back and forth, I think. But like I think that's the other thing that people I think should consider more is like what you want out of a round is kind of like an underlying variable that I don't think people put their finger on in rankings as much. Like if it's like you want to go out and have as much fun as possible on a golf trip and just enjoy, then I think Mammoth probably edges over if I'm in that mood. And then Sand Valley's just slightly behind, and that's just like one other small variable I think that kind of came to my mind while you were talking.
Well, and if you're optimizing for fun, shit, I mean, I'd put Mammoth over Lido. Again, if that's what you are optimizing for, because like, yeah, I mean, I think you can get absolutely like throat punched at Lido, and you know, if all you're focused on is how you play, I think you can, in theory, have no fun at Lido. If you have the wrong attitude and play badly, you can walk off that place and be like, fuck that place, I'm never coming back. Please don't have that idea. But
Totally.
like, I think that if you're optimizing for fun, that makes sense. Last question to get you out of here. I think I go to bed. Like, what is your preference? I mean, there's a lot of caveats there, but like, now that you've played Sand Valley, Full Bore, you played other places at Bandon, like, do you have a preference out of the two?
Yeah, I mean it's still Bandon for me. I think Bandon is like I'm getting more and more into the international golf scene, like being a Flyers Club member and like getting to go and do some of the amazing trips that those guys put together and experience some of that is like it truly makes you appreciate the stuff over here
Mm-hmm.
on a different level, and just the game in general on a different level. But I think the thing that is so impressive about Bandon, the more I see other places, is just like the fact that there are five full size golf courses there that legitimately could be the favorite golf course that you've ever played,
Yeah.
all in the same location. That you can sleep in one place and get on a shuttle and go no more than 10 minutes in any direction, and you've got a golf course that could potentially be your favorite golf course that you've ever played.
Yeah.
Like that is something that I really haven't seen internationally. Like there's amazing resorts. Like when I think about stuff internationally, like St. Andrews, obviously it has amazing golf courses all centered there around town. Old courses, a spiritual experience, and is like maybe my top golf course. If not, it's either one, two, or three. As I continue to try and put these rankings together, like that's an example of like a multi-course resort, but like the supporting cast around the old course isn't as
Sure.
good as the full lineup of Bandon. There's Rosa Penna Resort in Ireland, which has the new St. Patrick's links from Doak and has some other golf courses there. Amazing resort. All three of those golf courses are really stout, but again, like the full lineup, just not totally as strong as Bandon. And again, Bandon's got like two more golf courses on top of that. So like that's the thing with Bandon, that the global context for me like has changed my perception of that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
That like it's truly impressive and like a pretty special opportunity to have to be able to go out there and knock that list of courses off. Um, I think Sand Valley, as far as I know, is like they've got enough land to build 8 to 10 golf courses. I think is what they ultimately said.
Yeah, I think our caddy said they've used
I've heard that.
they've used about half of their 10,000 acres.
Yeah, they've got grand plans out there. I know there's going to be a lot more coming. I mean, they're working on kind of like what they were calling a community course already, where they took the old practice center and it's like there's stuff being built. So, I mean, I think as Sand Valley continues to accumulate courses, if they can continue, putting the standard out there that they have already, and like, I think there's more impressive land obviously out there for them to work with as far as dunes and stuff goes, and like, showing what they can make with the Lido, like that could just clear a forest and build a golf course like that. Like,
Yeah.
if they build more and more golf courses out there, like it'll start to become more of a discussion. I think the ocean again will be hard for people to separate. But I think the one thing, like I give the golf edge to Bandon for sure, and the off course experience and everything out there is amazing. I think there's like a different edge of fun. It's like kind of that Wisconsin vibe of like we're gonna go drink cheap beer and the dollar tacos
Yeah,
and the
totally.
ice cream sandwiches. Like there's a little bit more of a fun vibe. Like the off course vibe at Sand Valley is unique and different, and I think that's like where they have like a little bit of their special sauce. Besides the golf courses being amazing too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean you can't go wrong with either of them. Sand Valley will continue to catch up, I think.
Yeah.
Bandon still has the edge for me, just because, like I said, it's a truly like I think one of a kind type of a thing as far as the wealth of golf in a small area.
Yeah, and I think that like it should get bonus points for being the OG. I think that like being the thing that started it all, it gets bonus points. It is crazy to process though that like Sand Valley opened in 2017, and the fact that it's that built out without much good golf that quickly is shocking. And to your point, I mean, I think today they broke ground on Rodeo Dunes. I don't know. It's just crazy that like if we just every year have a Kaiser trip, it's like the amount of golf over the course of our lives that we're going to get to experience it's bananas to think about. But yeah, I mean, I think
And then you throw Cabot.
yeah, I've never done
You
Cabot.
throw Cabot into the mix too. Like it's just going to keep going. It's like you feel, just when you feel like you've caught up and like seen the places you need to see, like more of them are coming.
Yeah. That's why, that's almost why it's a good thing for us. There's an 18-month wait list. Like, cool. Give a little bit of time for more stuff to happen, and we'll be back. But yeah, I had really high expectations, and it blew me away. But any parting thoughts? I think I said 45, and now we went an hour and a half, so I think we got most of the thoughts out there. But anything else you want to say, share, get off the chest?
I think go to Sand Valley. I mean, if you haven't been, get there. And like Wisco in general, like you got to do the whole experience. I mean, Sand Valley's a trip in itself, but Lawsonia, Lac La Belle, you guys were raving about. I haven't been to Lac La Belle, but I've done, Erin, I've done whistling and kind of played Irish and straights and the river course there. I haven't seen the new par 3 course, but you got Lawsonia, you got Century World, you've got like, there's just so much good golf in Wisconsin. Wisconsin in the summer is kind of a powerhouse. Like it's pretty amazing up there. I mean, the weather's usually pretty great. Go to Wisconsin if you haven't been. Like you're missing out as far as golf experiences in the summer go. But yeah, go to Sand Valley. Lido is a run don't walk situation. Like get there, play it.
Yeah,
because it's really really amazing.
Yeah, my dad, I think every couple of years, him and his friends do whistling straights, and I forgot exactly how he phrased it, but he said it's this is very my dad's language, but he's like, it's the finest golf experience I've ever had. Like they love, because also too they're like they're a little ahead of us in the tax bracket too. So when they go, they kind of ball. And he was like, the rooms and stuff at whistling. He was like, when you have the full experience at whistling straights, he's like, it's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, I've been lucky to experience that because of getting entertained with a buddy up there, and we did the whole American Club experience. And yeah, it's. I mean, when you've got water coming at you from like 6 different directions in those showers because it's polar, you're like, whoa, this is.
My dad put it. He's like it's an ad basically when you're taking a shower. It's an ad.
It is a Kohler ad, but yeah, that place is that's pretty crazy, and you can go and. I mean, go to Wisconsin, play the places, rate the cheese curds, drink the spotted cow everywhere, plus the shandies. You got to have the shandies. So it's good.
It's just that part of the country. Like, we're later this year, we're going to have our Minnesota content coming out, just playing just public golf in Minnesota the month before. Same thing, like super affordable, unbelievably firm conditions on places getting like insane amount of play. I don't know. We sort of asked Mason, our buddy, about like what it is about that part of the country, and he was like, dude, he's like, no offense to California, but he's like, look, I'd love to play year round, but he's like, we know we have a finite window, and we just take it really seriously and maximize it. And I'm like, makes a lot of sense. Like in California, I think sometimes we get a little jaded where it's like, it's probably going to be nicer in November 1st than it is today in San Francisco because of our weird weather patterns. But I never, it rains a little bit in January, but I never have to worry about it. We're there, it's like, let's go play because like time's ticking down, days are getting shorter. It's going to get cold soon. But yeah, but can't wait to go. But not to be cheesy, Matt, but I'm super happy on this trip. We got to hang out. Like, loved getting to meet you. And yeah, I appreciate you coming on because, my boss today was like, tell me about Lido. And I was like, I can't really. I'm like, I need to talk to somebody who experienced it with me. So I appreciate you kind of unloading the chamber and talking to me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for having me on. It was an absolute blast to run around up there with you. Hopefully I did enough justice or explain the thoughts enough for everybody that listens here to actually take something away from it.
Yeah. But, the big thing is just giving them enough of a teaser to like go do it though. Like you need to go see Lido. Hopefully this was helpful, but like you got to just go see it. Yeah.
Number one takeaway: go to Sand Valley, go play Lido, go do the things up there.
Yes, sir. Cool.
So
thank you.
But no, thanks for having me on. Fun to chat, and always happy to come on and chat golf. Yeah. So if you got any other fun topics at some point, just let me know.
Anytime you want to come on, you give me a topic and tell me, and we'll press record and get it on here. That was the whole point of this pod. Just record the conversations you wanted to have anyway, and if anybody happens to listen to it, then awesome. But if not, then we get to talk about it and have it for memoriam. So yeah.
There you go.
Boom. Thanks, buddy.
Sweet. Well, hey, have a good rest of your evening, and look forward to the next time.
Thanks.